Hello there. My name is Michael Allen Shatto, and this is my story about the long and winding path I took to becoming an industrial designer. I've been a lifelong artist, and up until about a decade ago, I was happily employed as a sign maker in the grocery store industry. Traveled as a performance artist all around the country, and dabbled in everything from fine art to woodworking to costume and set design. In 2011, restructuring at the company meant that I was suddenly out of work and facing an ever-evolving work environment where I was quickly falling behind due to the fact that I didn't have a college degree. After a few failed starts, I was able to finally mount a serious effort in the spring of 2015. It was also at this time that I began my first serious design job at a company in the wine storage industry. After completing 2 years and 3 associate's degrees, it had become apparent that my aptitude and work ethic would allow me to reach much higher. In choosing a university, I also had to choose a focus, which at the time was really only directed towards architecture. After applying to and being accepted to Cal Poly Pomona's architecture program, a few conversations with my community college professors changed my mind. One of my favorite professors, who was also a mentor, suggested that since my interests were so varied, I might get bored or become frustrated in the architecture field, and that I might want to check out industrial design. So I applied to Cal State Long Beach to the industrial design program. I was initially rejected. After an arduous appeals process and picking up additional classes at yet another community college, I was finally accepted into the program in the fall of 2017. Now in my fifth solid year at the company that I work for, and having completed my third year of the industrial design program, I am absolutely positive that I am finally on the right path in my life, and towards a future so bright, I can't believe that it's mine. Next, let me tell you a little bit about one of the projects I'm most especially proud of.
Typing or using a computer keyboard is a challenging task for most people, even having all of your fingers in a fully functional capacity. For those who are missing fingers, either by birth or amputation, this task becomes almost impossible. The same is true for those that may have all of their fingers, but suffer from a condition such as ALS or cerebral palsy, which limits movement and control. This can prove especially difficult when attempting things like keystrokes, or operations where more than one key must be pressed to complete the action. In an environment such as the one that I face, where the user has at least function of one hand that is primarily used to operate a mouse, and the other being a terminal end of an amputation, having to switch to a good hand to complete these operations slows down project completion, especially when using programs such as AutoCAD, SolidWorks, or many Adobe programs, where the use of keystrokes is essential time-conservative workflow. Current options, as illustrated here, only allow for one key pressing at a time. For the purpose of this project, I focused on designing the project for an amputee like myself, with a fairly long residual end to their arm. However, future iterations could include a T-handle or other attachment, which would be useful for ALS or CP users who still retain a hand, just not its function. That being said, there are prosthetics out there for amputees, the caveat being that although they allow the fingers to move, it is usually only curling and in concert, with a solitary mode allowing for a single digit. Even in the most up-to-date models, another limitation is that they do not allow for finger spread along the longitudinal axis, a key ability to performing keystrokes. Without this function, it is simply impossible to complete keystrokes with a standard terminal device. Focusing on this and other functions, like foldability, I looked at both anthropod and arthropod legs, as well as how arthropods typically have a two-part carapace, from which all legs pivot. From there, I worked out a mechanical mock-up to test how these would function in real time. After building and testing a prototype using multiple keystrokes as a metric to judge usability, I was ready to move on to final design and branding. And so, this is the Tetra Assistive Typing Device. It was branded as such based on the fact that it only has 4 fingers, or is tetradactyl, tetra being the Greek origin prefix for 4. The graphic logo was chosen by looking at animals of this type and their track prints. After much consideration, I chose the frog print for its simplicity, as well as the dynamic feel that it exudes. Tetra is essentially a first-of-its-kind device, with no comparable products anywhere in the world. Its multi-point articulation and easy positionable digits allow for any number of keyboard configurations. Each digit, posable and lockable, maintain position through 4 compression joints and a ball-bearing set-screw main joint assist. Additionally, all of the parts are easily replaceable, which is especially important for device tips that typically become damaged or lost. The proprietary Super Grip fingertips stay in place with a toothed groove system, meaning that they stay on without adhesive until the user wants them off for replacement. The device fits on the user's terminal end using a split clamshell cuff combined with a laced tightening system, similar to those in cycling shoes. It is fully collapsible as each digit nests into itself when folding, similar to how arthropod legs work. This means it is compact enough to toss into a bag and go, so it is always there for you when you need it. The most challenging thing I found about this project was the creation of the lock-release mechanism for the lacing system. Due to the time that it took to research these types of systems, as they are primarily used only for cycling shoes, and there are but a few manufacturers. This means finding detailed information about how they actually work was difficult to locate. Once I figured out how it needed to function, modeling out the mechanism was relatively straightforward. This allowed me to create a manufacturable, fully functional device. Thank you so much for your time and attention.